Hey, short attention span history nerds. I'm Michael Perry, and you're watching 10 Minute History. To say that I'm a fan of Star Wars is a major understatement. I've seen every movie multiple times. I've competed in Star Wars trivia competitions and won, and even got the down payment for my second home by selling a fraction of my Star Wars collection. But what I've always found interesting is the massive amount of history that George Lucas used to develop his Star Wars saga. 6 specific historical events shaped the Star Wars universe as you know it. It's easy to see that when George Lucas was creating the storyline for Star Wars and developing its characters, he tapped into elements of theology, mysticism, and mythology, as well as classic films. But the story set a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away is based on real-life history and events. 2,000 plus years of history played a central role in shaping the filmmaker's space opera. George Lucas said in a 2005 interview with the Boston Globe, "I love history. So while the psychology basis of Star Wars is mythological, the political and social bases are historical." In fact, the filmmaker is such a history buff that he collaborated in the publication of the 2013 book, Star Wars in History, which was edited by history professors Nancy Reagan and Janice Lytle, written by a dozen leading historians and reviewed and confirmed by Lucas himself. Star Wars in History identifies the numerous real-life figures and events that inspired the science fiction franchise. There's nothing subtle about Lucas's use of Nazi Germany in Star Wars. After all, the elite troops dedicated to the Galactic Empire share the same name as the paramilitary troops that defended the Nazi Party, stormtroopers. The Imperial officers' uniforms and even Darth Vader's helmet resemble those worn by the German army in World War II. The gradual rise of Palpatine from Chancellor to Emperor mirrors how Adolf Hitler ascended from Chancellor to dictator. The Empire wasn't the only side of Star Wars to use Nazi imagery. The final scene in the original 1977 film, A New Hope, in which Princess Leia awards medals to rebel heroes Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, while soldiers stood at attention, echoed the massive Nazi rallies in Nuremberg, captured in the 1935 propaganda film, The Triumph of the Will. Although there are parallels between Emperor Palpatine and dictators such as Adolf Hitler and Napoleon Bonaparte, the direct inspiration for the saga's evil antagonist was actually American President Richard Nixon. In the making of Star Wars Return of the Jedi, when asked if Emperor Palpatine was a Jedi, Lucas responded no. He was a politician. Richard M. Nixon was his name. He subverted the Senate and finally took over and became an imperial guy, and he was really evil. But he pretended to be a really nice guy. In a 2005 interview published in the Chicago Tribune, Lucas said he originally conceived Star Wars as a reaction to Nixon's presidency. Lucas said it was really about the Vietnam War, and that was the period when Nixon was trying to run for a second term, which got me to thinking historically about how did democracies get turned into dictatorships? Because the democracies aren't overthrown, they're given away. You'll be keenly aware as you watch the original trilogy that guerrilla warfare was how the Rebel Alliance launched their attacks against the Empire. Lucas was mirroring the tactics of the Viet Cong style of attack on US and South Vietnamese troops. Lucas was actually set to direct the Vietnam War film Apocalypse Now, but for reasons unknown did not and moved on to his Star Wars project. Lucas said in an audio commentary on the 2004 re-release of Return of the Jedi that the Viet Cong served as his inspiration for the furry forest-dwelling Ewoks, who were able to defeat a vastly superior opponent in spite of their primitive weapons. William Astor writes in Star Wars in History, both that the Viet Cong and Ewoks were well served by their superior knowledge of the local terrain and their ability to blend into that terrain. The political institutions of Star Wars, such as the Senate, Republic, and Empire, and the pseudo-Latin names of characters such as Chancellor Valorium and Palpatine, echo those of ancient Rome. As Tony Keane notes in Star Wars in History, the architecture on the planet Naboo resembles that of the Imperial Rome, and the pod race in the Phantom Menace rivals that of the Roman chariot race scene in Ben-Hur. The transition from the democratic Galactic Republic to the dictatorial Galactic Empire also mirrors that of ancient Rome. It's plain that the basic structure of Lucas's history derived from the fall of the Roman Republic and the subsequent establishment of a monarchy king rights. While the elite Jedi who guard peace and justice in the Galactic Republic bear similarities to Japanese samurai and Shaolin monks, they also echo the medieval military order of the Knights Templar. The Templars, writes Terrence McMillan in Star Wars and History, were esteemed above knights for their austerity, devotion, and moral purity. Like the Jedi, they practiced individual poverty within a military monastic order that commanded great material resources. A 12-member council of elders headed by a Grand Master governed both the Jedi and the Templars, and Jedi clothing even resembles the hooded white robes worn by the Christian warrior monks who took vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. And much like the great Jedi Purge, Order 66, issued by Chancellor Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith, France's King Philip IV annihilated the Knights Templar after arresting hundreds of them on October 13, 1307, and subsequently torturing and executing them for heresy. The tense relationship between the United States and the Soviet Union, with the threat of nuclear annihilation lurking in the background, was hardly history when Star Wars was first premiered in 1977. The threat to the planet posed by nuclear weapons was encapsulated on screen in the ultimate weapon of mass destruction, the Death Star, which destroyed Princess Leia's home planet of Alderaan, a blue planet that closely resembled Earth. Star Wars itself entered the realm of the Cold War history after it was adopted by the media in the 1980s as a nickname for President Ronald Reagan's proposed Strategic Defense Initiative, which would have used lasers to defend the United States against incoming nuclear missiles. So those were the 6 major historical events that shaped the Star Wars storyline. As the franchise grows, more and more historical events will be used as themes for future Star Wars films. Let me know in the comments section if there are any historical events that you've seen in the franchise films. If you liked this episode, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. Until next time, history fans.